All right, Rams at the Ravens. Rams at the Ravens. You've got Case Keenum making his debut. So the first question I'm going to ask when that type of thing happens is, can you stream the Baltimore defense this week? At home against essentially Todd Gurley.
No.
No, you're saying no.
I am saying no because what the Rams did here is they upgraded their quarterback. I realize that it is, it's the first week that he's going to be starting, but I don't look at this as anything different than what the Rams already were, other than now they can throw the deep ball. So maybe Kenny Britt can show up. You got Wes Welker, who got a couple targets last game, looked younger than I expected him to on the field, and of course Tavon Austin there. The Ravens, their secondary is beatable. So this is actually a good game for Case Keenum to come into. And I'm not saying to stream Case Keenum, but if you're playing one of those larger crazy leagues where you're playing DFS and you want to win something big that is surprising, pairing a Keenum and Britt, no one else is going to be doing it, but it could happen.
Literally no one else is going to be doing it. All right. Joe Flacco had a good week last week, but listen to this. His 5 best fantasy performances of the season came when he was able to throw for more than 300 passing yards. And the Rams have yet to give up 300 yards to a quarterback all year. So I'm not expecting big things from Joe Flacco this week.
No, I do not either. I think Joe Flacco is, there's some question because of what Jay Cutler did to the Rams last week. So I think that last week he put up 3 touchdowns in the first half, and you're thinking, oh, maybe Joe Flacco can do it. But this Rams D is legit. They are for real. They are missing one of their key elements in their pass rush, but I just don't see Joe Flacco having a big game this week, which is why I didn't like Kamar Aiken.
All right, Todd Gurley. He is my number 1 this week.
I was shocked where I had him.
He's your 5.
Exactly, but that's what it says. I had him at 5. I had him as the 5th best running back, and I was shocked. I was like, when I finished my stats and I looked at my rankings, I was like, oh, that's disgustingly low.
Yeah. So we know he's starting.
Yeah.
And Justin Forsett, we pretty much know he's starting too. But the matchup isn't great.
No, the matchup's not great. He didn't have I think he benefits. He's one of those guys that benefits a little bit more from the matchup than he's not the type that's going to bully a very tough D. So I don't love Forsett this week.
All right, Kenny Britt, Tavon Austin, Wes Welker, Brian Quick.
Yeah,
ho-hum.
You just can't play the I can guess who it's going to be game. And really, I think it's every bit as likely that it's not going to be anyone.
Yep.
That it's just.
I mean, if I had to play one, it's Austin. Clearly Austin, because he'll get the most touches. They'll give him some opportunities to run the ball, make a big play.
Yeah.
Kamar Aiken this week on the other side of the ball, I'm tempering expectations with him. He's going to be matched up against Jenkins, no doubt. And Aiken, I have it as kind of like a back-end wide receiver 3 this week. Are you in agreement?
Yeah. He's my sit.
No, the Rams are the 6th best pass defense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he was your sit, right?
Kamar Aiken, he definitely is going to. I think I've got him at 46 this week. He's going to get the targets. So he could get some receptions, but I don't see him having a high ceiling at all.
All right, the Redskins head into Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Panthers are heavily favored in this game, but the Redskins have been playing well. So, Cam Newton, what did you make of that dance? Did you get to watch the dance?
I saw a part of the dance. I only had a little while. So, yeah, see what I did there. I have no problem with it, and I love what Cam said about it at the end of the game.
Keep me out.
Yeah, he said, I'm a big believer of if you don't want me to do that dance, stop me from getting in.
Yeah.
It's the NFL. I mean, I'm not personally one that likes those things. I don't actually look at that and go, yeah, Cam, you're cool. And if I was capable of playing in the NFL, which I'm very far away from, I wouldn't do that. I would be the guy that scores the touchdown, go up, give a handshake to my quarterback, give the ball to the ref. That's my preference, but I don't have any problem with the guy scoring a touchdown and doing a dance.
Did you do that dance after I threw you that extra point this past weekend? This past week?
Yeah, well, I did a backflip.
No, you did not.
No.
That was called you sat down on the field.
Yeah.
All right. Let's so Cam Newton, How do you feel about him this week? Because he's a guy people will make decisions on.
So
would you start Cam Newton over?
Yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. When I got done statting my players,
you're crazy.
Cam
no,
Newton,
you're not crazy. You have him at 1.
I have him at 1. Now I don't. When we stat these things out, right? I'm looking at the average of what I expect people to be. So this is kind of like their mid level, and Cam to me is not as gapped, right? Tom Brady could easily. There's someone else is going to finish above Cam. I'm not saying he's going to be one, but I do think he's going to be consistent. You can bank on him, at least having 2 touchdowns, 1 possibly on the ground, 225 yards. Through the air, and then also running for 30, 40 yards. That baseline just moves him so high.
Yeah, so you'd start him over just about everybody. I would start him over most guys. I'd start Palmer ahead of him this week because I'm staying in the flames with Palmer. I'd start Rodgers and Brady ahead of him.
Rodgers and Brady are the only 2 that if I had, I would actually start ahead of him. Palmer's been great, but the weapons being injured is obviously a concern.
Kirk Cousins sitting him down.
Yes.
After last week. You didn't want to reward him? The fantasy owners out there, they would probably want to say, you know what, Kirk? You got it done. I'm going to give you another start. We're just going to give you one against Carolina in Carolina.
Yeah, it's not
shouldn't do that.
Not going to happen. He was our stream of the week last week, the number 1 quarterback last week, and you can drop him. I don't think you need to keep him for the reason we played him last week was a matchup thing.
All right, so let's talk about the running backs in this game. Jonathan Stewart has I believe, 5 consecutive games of 20 carries.
5 consecutive games with 20 carries.
It's either 4 or 5. I'm gonna verify that.
Yeah, he has been. He's been getting the ball. He's been running well, and even though he's not getting in the end zone as much as Jonathan Stewart owners would like, he's been getting in the end zone more than I.
4 times in the end zone in the last 5 games.
That's what
5
I mean.
Straight games with 20-plus carries, not just touches.
Yeah,
so the workload is there.
And the Redskins are a beatable run D, especially with the power run game that the Panthers have. This is a matchup that I expect Jonathan Stewart to have plenty of yards in, plenty of touches, and then you hope he gets that touchdown, which Cam will probably steal.
Number 1 in attempts this year, going away, is Adrian Peterson. Number 2, Jonathan Stewart.
There you go.
Jonathan Stewart. And then Chris Johnson, Devontae Freeman. All right, so we're starting Stewart without any hesitation. Are you chasing points with Matt Jones?
No way. I'm not chasing points with any Redskin running back against Carolina. If you're low on the totem pole, your bench is depleted and you have to start a guy. In this game, I think it would be Matt Jones. He's probably got the highest upside, and the floors of Jones and Alf are pretty similar. But, and the Panthers aren't a team that usually blows people out. So it's not going to be one of those where you got to have the pass catching back, in the game for Washington. So Matt Jones would be the guy I would start, but I would really prefer other options from around the league.
All right, I'm not going to spend any time lingering on pass catching Carolina Panthers outside of Olsen. You're not really starting or streaming any of those guys this week, unless I'm wrong?
No, if you have to, I would go Ginn.
And then Garcon and Deshaun Jackson. Do you expect Deshaun Jackson to continue to increase his usage here, or is this just a matchup that just doesn't fit with him becoming fantasy relevant this week?
Over the course of the year, I expect it to happen. This game, it really depends on who Norman is going to be on. Norman is normally on the number 1 outside guy, which...
I think it'll be Jackson.
Yeah, which would be Jackson, in which case... No. And the reason we don't like Kirk Cousins says we, obviously wouldn't like the wide receivers. Yeah. But that also says I'm not super high on Rule 86 this week.
Okay.
Jordan Reed is a little lower in my rankings. He's
lower on mine too. Let me give you some guys that we would start over Reed according to our rankings. We would start Jacob Tamme consensus rankings above Reed. Maybe that's too far.
Well, he is my start of the week, so I would.
Yeah, and in that case, Delaney Walker's the other guy that I was going to mention, and he's my start of the week. So
and Eric Ebron.
Yeah, Jason Witten, Tyler Eifert, Travis Kelce. So he takes a big bump down because the offense, Reed has actually, his production in fantasy the last 2 weeks has been really touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
He had 2 touchdowns last week and 1 the week before, and if he hadn't done that, he'd have been...
I think he's got about the same number of catches without a touchdown as he does with a touchdown the last couple weeks.
There you go. Yeah, so the Broncos go into the Bears. We're going to move on to this matchup. This one is a very low over-under. total. Vegas has this game as a lower scoring game.
A big reason why, not only because of the great defense and poor offense, but the weather. 28 degrees. That's one of those rare, very cold games where it actually affects, especially the passing game. So even though it's expected to be clear, did a little bit of research on games around this type of temperature, and you see a lot fewer total plays every game because passing plays come way down, and what ends up happening is just essentially more punts, right? You have less success by the offenses, and so games tend to run out quicker.
Well, it doesn't, and you got Brock Osweiler now making his debut.
Yep.
And then you have the Langford Forte situation. Those are a couple of the big things to look at in this game. So let's start with Osweiler. You said that you feel like Thomas benefits as opposed to in a neutral situation. I do not necessarily take that approach. I'm fairly neutral with that. I know Peyton's been failing so much. We said Thomas only has 1 touchdown on the whole year. I don't really feel like I can give him an endorsement in Chicago this week because I just don't see that. I have to see Osweiler. Osweiler wasn't impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, he really was impressive in preseason, Andy.
Well, okay.
So
yeah.
There's that. With Demaryius Thomas, he's still going to be great. I mean, I think your neutral endorsement, he's been still a top wide receiver. I think he's in the top 3, right, for total receptions this year or targets. He's been getting used. He just hasn't been in the end zone. So we've got him at consensus number 7 this week. I think you've got him at 10. I've got him at 4. He's still a good option. The Bears secondary isn't, it isn't the Broncos secondary. And I do think he targets him a little bit more. Coming out of this game, Demaryius Thomas will have the most targets in Denver.
Yeah, I agree with that. So do you expect Emmanuel Sanders to be okay?
He is so hurt. He's still not practicing right now. At least yesterday. He's probably going to be a limited participant today. He's a gamer. He's always played through injuries, so I expect him to play and be decent. But in a low-scoring game, cold weather, Brock Osweiler, I'm tempering my hopes.
No catches last week. We remind owners that don't need reminding.
Yeah. If you had Emmanuel Sanders, you're not happy.
Yeah. So check his status though. We'll go through that tomorrow morning and let you know what happened on Thursday in terms of practice. Alshon Jeffrey, we already gave you the overview with him. I don't really think you can start any other wide receivers there. Royal's going to be out. Marcus Wilson's done absolutely nothing, even with guys being out. Bennett was your sit of the week.
Yeah, I just don't expect a lot of offense in this game.
That's really what it comes down to.
Either side of the ball, I think because of the weather, it's going to be more running.
A lot of sits.
If there's going to be, there's a lot of sits. And obviously you're not going to sit a guy like Demaryius Thomas when he doesn't have a terrible matchup across the field. But everyone else I'm willing to sit. I do like Langford. If Forte's out, I expect Langford to get the ball a lot in a cold weather. And he's just been, on fire. So I think the Flames stay in the cold. If that makes any sense at all.
No, none at all.
The Flames stay in the cold weather. Flames stay alive.
Okay. For Langford. Yeah, the pass defenses, Broncos are first, Bears are fourth. And then you mix in the weather and you mix in the situation and, maybe a low-scoring game. Maybe Vegas has that right. Cowboys go into Miami, take on the Dolphins, and Tony Romo will return in this one. I saw Mike in one of our leagues make a sneaky little move. He signed Dan Bailey.
Very smart.
Right before this week. So that would be something to mention to you if you want one of those higher profile kickers. Bailey's been good anyways. Now the offense might move a little bit.
Yeah. Always helps a kicker to be able to get in field goal range.
Not to mention, Bailey's one of the guys that plays his home games in a dome. And this is the time of year when you need to pay attention to that because you don't want guys outside in 20-degree weather with the wind blowing and the snow falling and having to make kicks.
Yeah, or even extra points from, far away.
Ugh, yeah. And our league has a terrible penalty for missing an extra point that has been there.
It's an old rule, right? Because
it's
everybody
been there since the beginning.
So you got -3 points when you missed an extra point, which pretty much never mattered in our league of record.
Sure.
But
and
if
it would be once in a year, and it would be laughable, and you'd lose some points.
Yeah. But now this year we forgot to change that rule coming in before the season, and as they move the extra points back and you see them missing, these are affecting games.
And it is infuriating.
I'm sure we're not the only league like that.
I have tried to change the rule twice during the season only to get voted down both times, and Jason voted me down.
I've got Gostkowski. I want those.
That is so selfish.
What are you trying to do when I'm playing to win?
You vote on league rules based on the integrity of the league.
In the offseason,
not on rules that benefit you.
In the offseason, you're exactly right. I completely agree. In the middle of the season, I'm not going to change it.
After 9 years, your desperation's showing through. All right. Ryan Tannehill, Tony Romo. You like Romo. He was your stream of the week. I don't like Tannehill at all. I'd start a lot of guys above him. But Romo comes in. How does he affect McFadden, Dez, Terrence Williams, and Witten?
I believe that everybody rises here. I think that
Rise,
Cowboys, rise. McFadden is not going to have the boxes stacked against him when Tony Romo's behind him. I still expect the Cowboys to run the ball and last year they had Tony Romo, and DeMarco Murray was the league leader in yards. And so I think this is good for DMC. Some people are saying, oh, this is now the time to sell. I don't buy that. It's obviously good for Dez Bryant, hugely good for Dez Bryant, good for Terrence Williams. And I think Tony Romo's got he doesn't need weeks and weeks and weeks of practice and playbook. He knows the system. He's an extreme veteran. So he's going to come in and have a fine game against a winnable matchup.
All right, the other side of the ball, Lamar Miller, Jay Ajayi. We expect Miller to be totally fine as a start this week.
Yeah, you have to keep. The Cowboys defense is very good, but you have to stick with Miller. He just gets the ball, and if he doesn't get it going in the run game, they get him involved in the pass game. He's going to catch 5 passes and have a chance to break one off, get 5 for 50, which is like what you get from a middling wide receiver, plus the carries and touchdown opportunities.
All right, I agree with you. What about the wide receivers on Miami's side? Who are you starting Landry over this week?
Probably a decent amount of people.
Would you start him over? We said Amendola earlier. Would you start Amendola or Landry? Didn't you say you'd start Amendola over?
Well, no, I said I would take Landry over Amendola rest of season.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
This week, I would take Amendola over Landry. The Cowboys' defense is decent, and I'm excited to see what happens with New England week 1 with Amendola.
All right. Would you start Hearns over Landry?
I have Hearns right now 1 spot ahead of Landry.
So it's real close.
It's really close, but if I was the owner making that decision, I would put Landry in over Hearns because of the
safety.
Because of the safety, because it gives me more time. Yeah, I don't love personally playing Thursday players. It's always fun when you get to watch the Thursday game, have a horse in the race, but I just don't like it from a practical standpoint come Sunday for decisions. And the injuries, Hearns could come up limp in this game. So
he could come up lame in this game is what you meant.
Sure. Let's go with that then. we can record all my sound bites.
It's okay.